Hi everyone, I'm Ilana Gershlovitz, and I will be talking about recovery from autism and how to keep hope alive. I'm the parent of a 19-year-old severely autistic boy. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa with my family. I am the author of a book called Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism, and I'm the director of an ABA company in South Africa called the Star Academy. I feel passionate about supporting other parents on the autism journey. My youngest son was also diagnosed with autism, but he recovered, and I'll be sharing what I learned along my journey with all of you. I grew up on a farm in South Africa. I have such fond memories of waking up to the smell of my mother's delicious farm breakfasts. As a small child, I loved every moment of running around barefoot in the dusty wheat fields. You'd often find me in the stable, feeding the calves or taking care of one of the abandoned lambs. At the age of 17, I moved to Johannesburg to study a commerce degree, and thereafter I completed my law degree. Finally, I'd moved to the big city to live the life I'd dreamt about. I joined a group of students who were going away, and it was there where I met Martin, and I fell in love. We married in 1998. It was all going according to plan. I'd accomplished what I'd set out to do. I'd married the man of my dreams. We were both successful in our careers, made nice money, had a nice house, lived in a nice suburb, and we were ready to begin our nice family. Everything was nice and comfortable on my road of normality. We couldn't wait for David's birth. I remember standing and looking down at the empty crib, full of hope and excitement. I bonded with him instantly. As with any firstborn, in the beginning, things were a little bit topsy-turvy, but I was happy, grateful, and well pleased with life. From 10 months, David started to suffer from ear infections, which were treated with multiple courses of antibiotics. Pretty normal, we thought. At about 11 months, diarrhea and a high fever landed him in hospital. When we got back home, suddenly we noticed that our son, he didn't want to look at us anymore. He no longer played peekaboo or babbled. David became unresponsive, and I started to search for answers. We were sent from pillar to post, occupational therapy, speech therapy, play therapy, you name it. Hopelessness set in, and the future seemed so bleak. When David was 20 months old, we visited a developmental specialist. The outcome of this visit turned into a surreal nightmare from which there was no escape. What she gave us was not merely a diagnosis. It felt more like a death sentence. He will never speak, go to school, be toilet trained, have friends, get married, or have a job. Take out an insurance policy. I hear you're pregnant, she added. I don't know what to say. No guarantees, unfortunately. Her parting words, goodbye and good luck. We finally had our diagnosis delivered in cold language. It felt like her gavel had struck. The words had left her mouth, and the sentence pronounced autism. All our hope dissipated into dust. David continued to suffer from bouts of gastro, his bowel movements explosive, frequent, and smelly with mucus, his belly bloated. Ear infections kept reoccurring, reflux became more, and we were battling high fevers. David stopped developing. I threw myself into research to find the answers, and what I found is that children with autism suffer from brain and bowel inflammation that is treatable. I also came to understand that autism is in fact epigenetic, and therefore a genetic predisposition coupled with environmental triggers may lead to autism. These triggers include infections, environmental factors such as food, air, water, seasonal changes, toxins, and so on. I stumbled on the words of the famous Nelson Mandela, who said, "Courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." This brought me comfort. A first ray of hope was when I discovered the late Dr. Jacqueline McCandless, her book, Children with Starving Brains. I read the book 3 times. Each time I couldn't put it down. The journey to the return of hope began when we started to educate ourselves about the treatments for autism. We needed to understand what it was. What was autism? What caused it? And how to not only stop, but also turn around the regression we'd witnessed. Dr. McCandless ordered a battery of tests for David, amongst them organic acid tests, hair metals, comprehensive stool analysis, DNA analysis. All these tests are available to you from labs in the United States. After analyzing David's test results, her recommendation arrived in my inbox. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept going around in my head. There are many things you can do to help your son get better. I wish you the very best in the healing of your precious boy. Before this report, the devil had no face. Now we could clearly see what we were fighting. At last, we were no longer enveloped in grey. Light was there, still at the end of a long tunnel. Soon after finding Dr. McCandless, I found the Autism One conference. My husband hopped on a plane to the United States, and we felt so hopeful and so encouraged by the information shared by immunologists, gastroenterologists, nutritionists, toxicologists, all giving solutions and treatment options for autism. This was profound, and it gives me great pleasure to be presenting to you today and passing on my first-hand knowledge and years of experience. I have stalked autism for the last 18 years, just like a hunter stalks their prey. I have studied autism, turning over every stone possible to find my son's ultimate cure. Today, David is 19 years old and still wrestles with autism. I continue to research biochemistry at 4 a.m. in the morning, learning more about the methylation cycle, mast cell activation of glial cells, and mitochondrial dysfunction. All of them part and parcel of the autism diagnosis. I am confident that somewhere the universe holds the answer. It may be lying hidden in the bowels of the earth. It may be sitting on top of a shooting star or in an ice crevice tucked away at the North Pole. Wherever it is and whatever it takes, I am determined to find it. And even though David is 19 years old, I will never give up finding his autism cure. Having done my training at a prestigious law firm, I was well versed in research. I turned on my laptop after starting the medical route, and the hunt for more solutions began. Discovering applied behavior analysis, ABA, was life-changing. ABA is rooted in the principles of psychology. It is endorsed by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the US Surgeon General, and it is regarded as a medical necessity and a scientific and evidence-based treatment for autism, and covered in many states in the United States under medical insurance. Sadly, I wasn't able to access a good quality ABA program for David in South Africa, and I only discovered the Center for Autism and Related Disorders on my travels to the United States many years later, when David was 7 years old. Many of you have heard of the late Dr. Jeff Bradstreet. He sadly passed away in 2015. He was our biomedical doctor for 11 years. Dr. Bradstreet redefined autism. He was a beacon of light and the best autism doctor in the world. He debunked the archaic approach to autism that looks no further than the initial diagnosis. He looked for the source of symptoms, considered the role of inflammation in the gut and central nervous system, and studied environmental insults and the role of the immune system. His son, whom doctors in my country would have written off, went on to attend an American college. Dr. Bradstreet proved that autism can be treated. Be sure to look out for his many published papers with the famous Dr. Marco Ruggiero, who wrote Chapter 3 in my book, Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism. Over the years, I tried many different therapies and searched for a school solution for David. On a particular day, when I felt despondent, a thought entered my mind. If I could educate the doctors in my country on the medical treatments for autism, I could help so many kids get better. That very moment, I emailed Dr. Bradstreet, offering him to visit South Africa. He accepted my invitation and brought with him the founding director of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, CARD, Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet. I hosted the Challenging Children Conference in South Africa, which provided a platform for parents and professionals to learn about autism treatment, dispelling the archaic notion that autism has to be a lifelong disability. It was groundbreaking for South Africa and ended on an exhilarating high, having provided renewed hope and inspiration to many. After learning about good quality ABA from Dr. Grant-Pichet, 12 years ago, I established the Star Academy in South Africa, which provides ABA programs to many children, not only in South Africa, but also in Africa. The only way I can describe CARD's arrival and my first day of training in ABA is to conjure a desert scene. Before CARD and ABA, we were lost in the desert, dragging our feet on the hot sand, bent over from exhaustion and heat. We had no compass and we had no idea where we were going as the strong rays of the sun blinded our sight. One sandy hilltop blended into another. Near death, we lay helpless on the sand, suffering from thirst and heat stroke. The vultures were circling, waiting for us to drop to the ground so they could pick away at our carcasses. When CARD arrived, it was like this big black chopper appeared in the sky with this American flag on the side. Down a rope came a board-certified behavior analyst who would rescue us from the desert storm and provide the oasis we needed to end our pain and our wanderings. This was precisely how I felt sitting through training on the first day of ABA from CARD in South Africa. As fate had it, my second son, Ellie, had normal development, and today he is a 16-year-old teenage boy who has his sights set on studying medicine as he grew up in a home where we have only spoken about autism. We were very lucky with Ellie, and he showed no symptoms of autism. We took a leap of faith. 8 years after David's autism diagnosis, I fell pregnant again. We were still moving mountains to transform David's autism into a state of remission. I longed for another child, and when Aaron was born, he was the spitting image of David, which frightened me right from the start. Aaron had normal development. I was careful with everything. However, his development was always on my mind. At around 16 months of age, he suffered from recurrent ear infections, and we decided to insert tubes in his ears. It never crossed my mind then that an anesthetic might be unsafe for him. Anesthetics can be a contributing factor to the cascade of events that eventually causes the autism symptoms. Over the months, Aaron had developed some words. The very day of his anesthetic and procedure to insert tubes, he lost eye contact and he never spoke again for 9 long, soul-stealing months. We longed to hear his voice, and honestly, we were terrified. To our disbelief, Aaron started to show symptoms of autism. After all, we just watched the movie of David. And, that is a movie of autism. And when you've watched a movie like that, you know what's going to happen. And when you've seen your first child deteriorate, battle, and regress over 10 years, and suddenly you're faced with another child going down the same path, it's extremely frightening. Facing a whole new world of worry you can't describe. It's paralyzing, and you don't know what to do. We asked ourselves, will he be like David? Will we be able to save him? That was our constant companion, worry. When we went to bed at night, when we woke up in the morning, it just consumed us. I will never forget that fateful week when the lights went out for Aaron and I lost my 17-month-old baby to autism. We immediately started in an ABA program, 7 hours a day at the tender age of 17 months. Yes, that's right, 7 hours a day. It took 4 years of a good quality ABA program, 7 hours a day, coupled with brave medical decisions. But we got our boy back. Aaron recovered from autism. Recovery from autism means that he no longer displays criteria for autism as listed in the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual. That's the DSM-5. He is in a mainstream school with no support, and he scored average on his IQ. Dr. Lovas, who created ABA, already proved recovery in 1987. This is really not a new idea. Since then, many children have recovered, and you can take a look at the published papers by Dr. Tarbox and Gran Pichet on recovery from autism. Aaron can tell us what he wants, what he's thinking, what he likes, what he doesn't like, and just like any other little 9-year-old boy, he enjoys play dates and going to the movies. We got our boy back. We won the battle. I don't think a day goes by where we don't appreciate the miracle that is Aaron. At the beginning, when we saw symptoms of Aaron's autism, we try and reassure ourselves that it wasn't so bad. It was just a phase he was going through. It's difficult to put our feelings into words over such a long period of time. It wasn't minutes, hours, days, or weeks. It unfolded over months. So from one day to the next, if he had a good day, we'd be okay. Then he'd almost be okay, and we convinced ourselves that it was okay and that we'd been over-analyzing. From having a child like David, analyzing everything was second nature to us. Eventually, we came to a point where things changed. We turned from people who were paralyzed and hoping this wasn't what we thought it was to one day deciding, okay, this is a problem. Now we're going to deal with it. Suddenly, everything felt so much better. After 10 years of dealing with David and never giving up, always fighting at full strength and not getting burnt out, now I had to raise my game completely and fight for 2 kids. If I was ever going to burn out, it was now, but I didn't. I kept on fighting, and I dug very, very deep to save him. I analyzed every bit of his ABA program, making sure he achieved all his goals on time. Please note that you can have the best ABA program in the world, but if you as a parent are not actively involved and driving the program and motivating the therapists, you will not have the best outcome. In every sport or discipline, there's always the expert, the best in the world, the person who's more skilled than anyone else, the tennis player with his precise shots, absolute perfection to watch. When he wins, he's playing against the best in the world. There are millions of people who have practiced tennis over and over again, trying to qualify for the top. So when you get to that level, every inch of your game has to be perfect. At that point in time, I was at the top of my game. I was the best at what I needed to do, and it was out of a pure life and death situation. I had to be a skilled tightrope walker. And if I fell, it would be to my death. I had no choice but to make it to the other side. That's how I fought this fight. That's how I recovered my son. The many months when Aaron didn't speak at all were extremely worrying. Again, we knew what this meant, having had David nonverbal for so many years, frustrated at not being able to communicate his needs. So for Aaron to be silent, that was very scary. When he said his first few words, we felt this enormous weight lifting from our shoulders. You always have to have hope and look at the positive in everything, no matter how bad it seems. If you can see some light around the next corner, you can carry on going in the right direction. But the second you lose hope, you're finished. This means that you have to find ways of keeping that hope alive. That's the best advice I can give any parent when you're trying a new diet or a supplement. If one doesn't work, try another. If you've tried an ABA technique and it didn't work, move on to the next. If you tried a motivator, that didn't work, look for another one to replace it. There's always something else to do. Keep hope alive and you'll succeed. There is no magic one thing that will make autism vanish into thin air as if it wasn't there to begin with. It requires heavy sacrifice and persistence to beat autism. Many parents believe that psychiatric medication is going to fix their child. This couldn't be furthest from the truth. Some parents feel that their child gets worse on certain medical treatments, and this makes them question the biomedical treatment protocol. Uncovering and treating the underlying causes is tricky. It's going to take time. Some things are going to work, others may make the child worse, which means you take a few steps back before you take a few steps forward. You have to have the guts to weather the storm. I've seen parents throw in the towel, claiming it's not working too early on in the treatment protocol. And without intensive ABA, and I mean 5 to 7 hours a day, the child is not going to make that comeback from autism. I've seen parents chase a silver bullet, hoping to get to the treasure at the end of the rainbow. Without ABA, the child is not going to miraculously suddenly start talking or learn those skills they're missing. It needs to be taught, and it takes hours upon hours of good quality and intensive ABA to get there. It doesn't take 6 months to turn things around. It took us 4 years, 7 hours a day to recover Aaron. When you first realize your child has autism, it's similar to being a wounded soldier on the battlefield. You find yourself lying face down on the ground, injured, and there are bullets flying over your head. You try to take cover, but fear overcomes you, and you stand frozen, unable to make a move. The choice is yours. You can lie there and you can succumb to your wounds, or you can crawl wounded to the helicopter on the hill that will airlift you to safety. No one can assure you that you're going to make it home, but you have a choice. Even though we were wounded, we chose to crawl as fast as we could to safety. Today, Aaron is in grade 3, attends a mainstream school. He has recovered from autism. Looking back, he loved his years of ABA and all the attention he got and playing with his therapist. He would never have learned to speak without incorporating a special speech technique called prompts for restructuring oral, muscular, phonetic targets, prompt, into his ABA program. So to those people who say ABA is destructive and repetitive, just creates robots, that's complete rubbish. If ABA is done in the correct way, the child can be motivated and love the sessions. Grouping children in a special needs classroom, all with different deficits and opposite and diagnoses, they all got different skills, delays. It's not going to work. We need to customize an individualized education plan. ABA was the only way we could teach David new skills, and today he works with a chef in the kitchen every day. By using prompting and reinforcement techniques from ABA, we developed a number of task analysis to teach David how to be successful in the kitchen. A normal recipe may have 10 steps. With David, we broke it down into 120 simple steps to make him successful. I'd never imagined that it would be possible for him to master the skill of cutting a carrot, a cucumber, potatoes into small cubes. He uses a sharp kitchen knife. Not only has he learned how to bake and cook, but he has also got a weekly schedule, which he follows, and this helps him check what stock he needs to buy in his deli. David looks forward to making biscuits thanks to ABA, and his escapades in the kitchen have been very successful. He continues to learn new things to cook or bake because we can teach him, drawing on the principles of ABA. Watching the lights come back on for Aaron after he'd been in the dark for so long was simply magical. Never underestimate the power of persistence. Own your story so that you are able to write your own ending. Never give up. There is so much hope. Just find a way to keep it alive. I would like to share some of the magic keys that made all the difference. Understand that every child is an individual and there is no cookie cutter. The list of information I will share below is for you to consider for your child and something you can discuss with your medical doctor. So let's talk about David. What helped him? Healing his gut, a rotational diet, treating yeast and Clostridia, acid reflux treatment, balsalicide disodium for the gut, melatonin to sleep, intravenous glutathione, lots of probiotics, steroids, ibuprofen, Zithromax. We use this for pandas with IVIG, that's intravenous immunoglobulin, molybdenum and zinc helped his pica. When he didn't want to eat, I'd use a protein shake, and I knew if you got liquid nutrition, I didn't need to worry about solid foods. Vitamin B6, dramatic improvement in reducing seizures. ABA, so with the ABA, when he could learn how to communicate via his iPad, this unlocked a whole new world for David. Prompts for restructuring oral muscular phonetic target, that special speech technique, game changer. We had to regularly change his behavior intervention plans, skills developmental curriculum, key, always working towards his independence and functionality. So Aaron recovered from autism. How did we do it? Early intensive behavioral intervention, 7 hours a day for 4 years. Skills developmental curriculum, prompts for restructuring oral muscular phonetic targets. This was instrumental in Aaron bridging his severe apraxia. Attention to detail, ABA 101, you must have a reinforcer, effective team communication, weekly goals. Your team must be motivated and inspired. We want therapists who are going to go to the moon and back. If you don't have therapists like that, fire them, get new ones. Biomedical, for Aaron, dietary intervention, support in the form of correcting his nutritional deficiencies, assessing his digestive system for chronic infections, treating them, supporting mitochondria, reducing inflammation. Namenda, go do the research. Low light laser therapy, amazing, incredible results. Antihistamines was important for Aaron. So how then do we keep hope alive? No one will deny that the devastation of the experience of autism can result in the loss of hope. Every day is a physical and emotional slog as you work towards achieving goals. Hitting a brick wall with David was a regular occurrence for us. It was incredibly difficult not to lose all hope. It was the things we could have taken for granted each day that we made a conscious decision to acknowledge. I'd say them out aloud, like, thank you that I have food to eat. Thank you that I have a roof over my head, and so on. Having access to the true experts, like the medical professionals presenting at Autism One and being guided by them was certainly also instrumental in keeping hope alive. I call on all health professionals to open their minds and embrace the many new areas of research and evidence-based treatments for autism. My advice to parents, put on your boxing gloves. There is absolutely nothing to accept about an autism diagnosis, and do not fight each other. Fight autism. I know that you are facing special diets, supplement protocols, blood draws, visits to the doctors. You're juggling your work, trying to pay the bills. You need to raise the siblings. You sleep deprived. I know you're not sleeping. On top of this, you are so worried about your child. It's a lot. You're physically and emotionally exhausted. Make a commitment now to each other that no matter what, you're going to work together as a team and that you won't let autism rip you apart. That way, you will weather the storm and ultimately succeed. So what does it take to beat autism? Courage, determination, hope, persistence, and prayer. Adding a spiritual dimension to the physical treatments is crucial. I always say that autism broke the wrong parts of me. It broke my wings, but forgot I had claws. Join my parent support group, Autism Now What? I am also available for consultation. Thank you.